Hey, what's up? It's DJL7 today. Well, actually, I'm interviewing candidates from all over. I have a very special guest today. I'm actually interested in this guy for several reasons, but I'm gonna let him talk for himself. So, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Darren Aquino. I am, as he said, a candidate for mayor of New York City. Um, my history is I'm a national advocate for disabled. I started one of the first advocacy groups protecting the rights of, now we're called vulnerable, but people with disabilities. I started under Ronald Reagan when I was 22 years old. I formed a DBA, and in 1999, I created a national nonprofit to fight for equity and equality for disabled around the country. In the early days, I made accommodations because I had the help of Ronald Reagan. I was one of the famous memos of President Reagan, where I was contacted by him and his cabinet after I sent him a letter. I had no interest in politics, didn't care. Growing up in New York City, it was survival mode. When you grow up in New York City, you get a job, you work, you take care of your family. A little about my background: I'm Latino and Italian. I grew up in East Harlem, the Bronx, then Queens, and then ultimately, as an adult and a married man, I lived in Long Island in the final years before I came down to Florida and make my way back to New York. I'm also a union actor. I made opportunities for disabled actors where there were none. They're still limited, but now at least you see more. I made a footprint in that. It didn't help my work very much because I fought for the voiceless, but that's okay because for me, it's about getting the job done as an advocate. Equity and equality is a big thing to me. So that's just a little of my background. I did work on Sopranos. I worked on Law and Order Special Victims for 3 years. In some newspaper articles, they said I played a disabled cop. No, I had a disability and they allowed me to be a cop with a limp that was noticeable. But Dick Wolf and the cast and crew, after my first year, like we all became friends. They admired what I did, they respected that. And, the fight for advocacy is endless. I don't have to tell you that. Discrimination, even with voting. I had a fight for disabled voters. And even today, they still, till today, even though I was one of the voices for the ADA, they have no braille ballots for homebound blind people. So when you wonder about elections and interference and integrity, when it comes to disabled, we still need a voice. So
That's
that's
significant. I really appreciate that. We were talking about Braille the other day with my with another of my advocates. And Ronald Reagan, he talked about compassionate conservatism. So a lot of people have a typecast. They like to typecast Republicans a certain way, but I don't believe in the labels, right? It's really up to the individual to decide how they want to apply that. And your work is quite inspiring. I'm honored to meet you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me to be in this group. Today with the political climate, I think the thing we got to do as the people, we have to take charge again. We have to make our voice, make them understand who they serve, us. And they haven't been doing that quite the way. We've had a political cloud that shows more corruption than it shows a service to the people around the country. Donald Trump is one of the folks that he brought that to everybody's attention, and people woke up, and that's a good thing. It has some bad fallout, but what I hope to achieve in this is not so much that I'm a conservative Republican, but I'm an American first, and I want to join New Yorkers. I want to talk to the young millennial Democrats and Republicans and invite them to be with me. Change comes from us. It doesn't come from politics. So I want to introduce and invite them to be part of making true change for New York because that's what it needs.
I appreciate that so much. Now, the thing is that when we look at when I first get to know people, I want to know like how they started in their activism with the political work. I know you talked a lot about how you work with disabilities. I don't know if you grew up with a disability or if that
I
came later
did.
in life.
I did.
Okay, so that was really pop. Maybe that was core to your identity. Was there like an awakening moment, or what kind of got you into this whole activism realm?
Well, after I got hurt, I became a young dad. I was 22. I had a daughter. I was working with my brother-in-law's brother who was deaf, but he was strong, and I had polio. So we had a sauce and cheese business, suppliers to pizzerias. So he was the muscle and I was the voice. So I would drum up the sales and we would do it together. Then I had an accident and having a new baby. I was watching Ronald Reagan on TV. This is all out there on the internet. It's an amazing story. I said, politics, like, what's that about? I didn't care. I came out of a Democratic family. But back in those days, Democrats were working with Republicans. It was a better time for both parties. And I wrote him a letter, and it was 15 pages. And I'm dyslexic too. So my ex wife at the time helped me orchestrate it. And I shared my thoughts, my concerns, my physical condition, and that I didn't want welfare. I wanted an opportunity because I believe no matter what, it's about the ability within a person that has a disability that if they're given an opportunity, right? Today, the ADA was about accommodations to make, to use the abilities within. That's what it is. It's a way of mainstreaming you by an accommodation to use and share your abilities with community, with country, whatever. So after I wrote that letter, I discovered mailgrams because he didn't answer it. And I sent a nasty mailgram saying, I thought you cared about me. I would die for my country. I don't want to be on welfare. I would mop the White House floor. I want to be a responsible dad. And I believed you. The next morning, he came on television, and the next morning, I got phone calls from all day from the White House that the president has directed me to all his cabinet members. It was incredible. I started to weep. I got very emotional because here's the commander in chief. He cares. He gave it there. And the phone calls came, and he was fighting for my disability. So politically, they made me take the welfare subject to signing over Social Security, like a loan. And then they started messing with me, and I got to learn through this is how these systems work: city government, local government, federal government. So it piqued my interest that if I don't have a voice, now I know why so many people are struggling because they're reliant instead of being your own advocate. So President Reagan showed me that country does care. The buck stops with him, but it's important for what I do. My contribution makes the difference. And that's why I started. I'm not a politician, but I am an advocate. And if I have to get elected to implement the change, then that's what I have to do. So, I believe that we can be a more united country, but thinking that big is too big. So, focusing in a political race, I think that the significant change that needs to be to New York, I can do that. Eric Adams wanted me to help him 2 years before he ran. So I think that's what motivated me, what was lacking. And having a positive voice and hearing from the commander in chief in the 80s, right? 1983. He was my first president I voted for in 84, his second term. I really wasn't interested. But after this, my heart, my thinking changed. I was a street kid. So I know the dynamics of New York. I know what good looks like. I know what evil looks like. I know what corruption looks like. And I know how to clean up New York. And that's what I'm going to implement. Positive change, but unity. I want us to be united. I want the young people because as now, right, I'm 64, right? I have a grandson now. I want him to have a future. I want them to have an opportunity. And if responsible folks like you're taking this time to hear responsible content, well, if we do this on a whole, guess what? We're going to succeed. And we're going to have it the way that it needs to be because I want them to have a future, right? You're going to have kids. You want your kids to have a future. That depends on the people we elect. And if we elect some good people, listen, there's always going to be corruption, but we got to do the best to weed it out. One of the things I want to do in New York, and I'm going to do it if we have this special election, which we're all focused on, I'm going to put a transparency office that watches over me and the city council comprised of New Yorkers, not Republican or Democrat, independent, so that they have a clear view and nobody can say, well, this one's a Republican, this one's a Democrat. No, they're independents. And they're doing the best choices to weed out the corruption that would come into my office. you know, when Mayor Adams put out the 5 deputy mayor, that was my plan from my intellectual property, and Bo Dietl gave it to him. I was very upset about that because he didn't utilize it the proper way. The way it was supposed to be utilized was putting me in 5 places. So every month I would have an update on every borough so that they wouldn't fall behind, because as an advocate, I serve the disabled, right? And now, with the big problem going on now, 70,000 special needs children are caught in the system because the city spent money foolishly. There's no fiscal responsibility. So who hurts first? The struggling families, homeless veterans. And that's don't even get me started with that. There's going to be a consequence for that when I get in. But these things got out of control. And that's when government fails the most vulnerable, the whole government's got to be shut down and revamped. Because if
Yeah.
you can't take care of the vulnerable, you'll never take care of anybody else. And always look at this. And I saw a veteran on here. I want to thank him for his service. I come from a veteran family and a law enforcement. My nephew's a police officer in the 7-5 precinct, worst precinct in New York City. But when we when I implement these changes, and when you put illegals in hotels and throw veterans out, that's a constitutional question that borders with treason. I read the New York State Constitution backward and forward because I'm going to implement the changes and put things for New Yorkers that works best for New Yorkers, all New Yorkers, not some. We got to take off these political hats. I'm a proud Lincoln Reagan Republican, which means those are the ideologies that united us. And those are the ones that I'm going to apply together with my creative ideas and the young people I'm going to bring into the administration to bring change, bring
You,
true change for everybody.
I love the answer on two fronts, especially. Just, I actually have work with Stephen Lee, who's actually carried on the work of Serpico, who caused a reexamination of the NAP Commission. And
Uh,
before, and you said that having independent review, Serpico himself says that police cannot police themselves.
that's
Democrats
right.
cannot police Democrats. And as a Republican, that's really, I really love what you said. Republicans cannot police Republicans. Getting independent, third-party people to look and see what's going on. That's someone who's really not afraid to have review, and that's what we need because this city is so corrupt. There's so many problems going on with
Oh my
that.
God, yeah. And my hope for that is that folks like you, like young people, right, saying, listen, when I make the announcement, I'm going to say, listen, I invite you, young Democrats and young Republicans. I'd like half of my administration to work in our think tank for change. I want you to be young folks. I want you to take off that hat for a moment, keep your ideals, but now work together because it's our city. It doesn't belong to Republicans. It doesn't belong to Democrats. It belongs to us. And if we can get over that hurdle, watch what we can do together.
Absolutely. The second thing that I want to talk about right quick was
Yes.
sorry to take this quick aside, but actually for Thanksgiving, well, actually just to provide a little backstory, I was protesting at the Al Sharpton's been in front of Bill Ackman's office protesting for Claudine Gay on DEI, but DEI has negatively impacted Asian Americans, which is not being acknowledged. So the thing is that when I was there protesting, Al Sharpton said he's one of us talking about me. So actually, I'm trying to on Thanksgiving when he has his dinner, which he always invites all the press, the media is all there. I'm trying to get the whole entire MAGA team to show up with all our red hats. We're going to volunteer. We're going to give away food with at National Action Network, and right, hopefully bringing a new era of unity. There's pictures of Al Sharpton and Trump hanging out together. Trump and actually Jesse Jackson hang out together. And Al Sharpton was weaponized by the Democrats, right? He was actually
Yes, he was.
sicked on Trump, but the Republicans won, and he has an interest in working together. And Mayor Adams himself also is actually become starting to lean a lot more towards Trump and getting rid of the divisiveness. So,
But
yeah,
only because he got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Taking $10 million from foreign nationals is unacceptable. That's
well,
just unacceptable.
there you go, right? So the thing is that once again, right, Democrats have really kind of let a lot of people with disabilities down. A lot of them haven't listened to the disabilities advocate that I work with, and to have a disabled man show up, we'll try to have some indigenous people there, a war victim
Token
like my
person.
yeah,
Token person.
a war victim like myself showing up, right? We'll talk about the diversity of some groups is actually left behind right? To focus on other groups right here. And the thing is that if you really want to be talking about inclusivity, I appreciate some of the things that Al Sharpton has done. But once again, it's time for us to leave the divisive rhetoric behind. It's time for us to work together. We'll all be there with our MAGA hats saying, you know what? You could call us names, but we're here to help the community. We're here to work with you. And I think that would be a beautiful thing. So I really love that message of unity. And I
I
also want that.
I,
I'm
I
tired of
love
being, yeah, I'm
I
tired of seeing,
love
yeah, go ahead.
I love that. And I grew up. My dear friend growing up was Asian back in. We're talking in the '60s. The father and mother, they had this place on 46th Street, New York, called the Flower Drum Restaurant. All the time when it was one of the kids that we were all in school together, it was their birthday. The family would have us there, and we'd have. He would celebrate with all his friends. Each of his friends when their birthdays came. So it was just great. Like there was a lot of unity when we were growing up, even
Yeah,
though there was a tough time for minorities. I'm Latino, and I was always a brown skin. So, the black community, the Latino community, well, there was a lot of prejudice. And back then, even with the Asians too, but we had a clique and we were mixed. We were mixed and we were New York Midtown kids. So it was great. The prejudice never hit our group. We were united. If anybody came in from another borough and started trouble, they couldn't believe how we all grouped together. All of us. It was everybody was there, and I like
yeah,
that. I like that because you know we got to get past colors, and we've let politics throw like gay and lesbian. I have friends that are gay. They're my friends. When we
yeah,
grew up, it's their choice. That's a freedom. It's not a political platform. And they've thrown that in there, and we got some things with the schools that will not be tolerated. Listen, you want to be this, you be that. That's fine. I embrace that. I'll protect your freedom over it. And I won't let nobody fight you, hate crime. That will not be allowed. But when you want to make a public display with going in front of the schools and this transgender, we can't do that. You do that, you expose yourself in front of kids, you're going to jail. And that's that.
you know, I,
This,
and just to chip in for a second for the people that are triggered by what he's saying right there. Look, we know that even Catholic priests, we know that Boy Scout troop leaders can be actually engaged in inappropriate behavior. I understand you want to do the right thing. I understand you want to look out for a community that's hurting right now. But just because they have a certain identity, you can't greenlight everything they do.
that's right.
Everything deserves review. And if
Absolutely.
Catholic priests and Boy Scout leaders can be engaged in victimization of children, guess what? Trans people can too. So
We
once
had
again,
that.
it's completely fair for there to be community review of anything going on.
Absolutely.
And I'm
We
not
had
saying right,
that.
yeah,
We had
and
that going on in Catholic Church because I grew up. We went to Catholic school right on Fifth Avenue. And we're very familiar with. It. I'm
yeah,
very as an advocate. Listen, there are people with disabilities that are gay and lesbian. I protect them the same way I would protect my brother. I don't discriminate. I think it's wrong, but I think when we don't get to platform our disability and show it off and wear it and peacock it. We don't get to do that. That's wrong. So, protecting an individual's right or any hate crime towards them, anybody that tries anything against any gay or lesbian or hate speech, they're going to jail. And that's that. And I have a line and I don't want nobody to cross it because when you're protecting everyone's freedom, keyword everyone, doesn't matter. When I go into office, if I win because of my values of President Lincoln, one of America's greatest presidents since Washington, the president that brought the country together. And the only reason I stayed in and came back because they called me from New York. Darren, you could win. Please come and do it. You're the best thing for New York. You got a track record. You're bigger than life. You're not a politician. You're authentic. People like you. I said, well, I'll do it, but I don't have this kind of money. So we have to grassroots this all the way. I'm sure when I'm publicly there speaking and I unleash, I'm going to give you one program that I'm going to do. You're going to
okay,
love this idea. I'm
all
going to
right.
put my 30/60 plan in. Go ahead, ask me what 30/60
What is
means.
the 30/60 plan?
I'm going to tell you. Now, we've had a lot of criminals in jail, and we pay for them, right? We pay anywhere between $250 to $300,000 a year to house them at Rikers Island, and these are blue crime, white crime criminals, like computer thieves, people that try to manipulate the system through technology, and they get 3 and 4 and 5 years. So. You know, jail is about paying your debt to society. Well, New York is kind of filthy. So everybody loved this. My team said, Darren, that's brilliant. I was going to do that if I won in 2017. We're going to give them out. I'm going to make them sign a waiver unless they got hurt by a car being, they're going to clean New York 12 hours a day. I'm going to let them out to clean and go back to jail, eat dinner in jail. 6 o'clock, you're on the road in the morning, cleaning the streets of New York. It won't cost us one nickel more than we're already paying. That's how we're going to clean up New York City. And for these folks that are showing, the thing about people is when you really give somebody an opportunity, you bring change to them. So we're going to give them a clean bill of health. They'll go on to lead a productive life. And if they see anybody litter, they'll be the first one to open their mouth. Don't do that. I cleaned that. You see? So you're building character, you're giving opportunity, and they'll do 30 days, and I'll give them 60 good days. So every 30 they put, so they'll get half a sentence. But they're going to work for it. So we're paying them to sit in jail. Now I'm going to put them on the street and make them clean. We'll clean all 5 boroughs. That's just one plan that I have.
That's an interesting concept. Yeah, actually, that's we'll come back to that later on because I do work with a lot of people who've like faced wrongful incarceration and stuff like that. So that's pretty, but I do see some benefits to that. So let's move on to the first half of the interview is learning about yourself. The second half of the interview is for like learning about your policies.
Yes.
So the second question is going to be, some people they define themselves, like AOC says that she's a socialist. Some people say they're conservative. Some people say they're moderate. Right? There's different political ideologies. Are there
Yeah.
any political ideologies that you claim or that kind of shape your vision?
I'm a conservative American patriot.
Okay,
I
that's a
believe
good
in unity.
okay.
Like I said, I gave you the two key guys Lincoln, who brought a country together, which I want to bring our city together, and Reagan, who showed me he was at the top, but my voice mattered. So these two keys are going to be the foundation of my policies and principles. I'm the voice that you elect, and I'm there for you. And
That's
I
a
will
that's
never,
yeah.
yes,
You just actually jumped into like the next question, which is actually right. Because like with when people say conservative, they could be talking about Rush Limbaugh. They could be talking about like there's a lot of different conservatives out there, but you said specifically Reagan and Lincoln.
right.
Now, you did mention some things, but what particularly about their or maybe there's other people who are influenced to your ideology, right? Maybe your type of conservatism, American patriotism. But are there any other special qualities about these individuals or these leaders that
Oh, God.
really inspire you and make you influenced by them?
Yes, I'm inspired by Lincoln because before he won, it took him 8 times. I had a few losses, so it took Lincoln 8 times, but he was adamant. Knowing the change to unity with all of those haters, he put his life on the line and it killed him, but he did it. And I admire that. His courage, his principle, his faith, his foundation of his soul, of who he was not going to be deterred, and he was adamant, and I respect that. And he created the Republican Party to have good principles, to be united. That's what the Emancipation Proclamation was. That right, we share the same God. We were all created equal. Colors. This was he didn't appreciate this. It was long overdue because the black slavery. He said this is just not right. I mean, his humanity spoke out, and I appreciated his courage. So when you look at parties and you see one group saying, "Yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that," but the truth of the matter is, the Democrats in the last 2 decades did more damage and harm than they did anything positive. They did for themselves, though. Look at all the wealth that they have.
Yeah,
I'm going to be very happy with a $258,000 salary. I'm going to be very transparent. There will never, ever be anyone to buy me. No special interest, none of that. New Yorkers come first. And that's that. And that's I want to leave a legacy. If I am successful and New York hires me, that in itself is the highest honor you could be given when you sit and take that high and noble seat. People relied on you. So for me, loyalty is big. So them showing me, all right, we're going to give you a shot. I'm loyal to that. And I will never forsake. I will be the guy you expect me to be.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, thank God. there's a lot of shenanigans going on here in New York, so it needs to be cleaned up real bad.
Well, we're
Yeah,
gonna clean that up. If that ain't gonna happen when I come. I didn't forget that Bill de Blasio ran off with 850 million. I didn't forget that Mike Bloomberg made 3 terms when two was the law. And
yeah,
there's a lot of, that's why I'm putting that panel over to city council. I was active in all of those because my friend was the commissioner. And when he became the commissioner for people with disabilities, Matt Saplin, and I knew Vic too, Vic Scalisi. And I said, Matt, and he was blind. When we met, they were doing the Bush um, convention in 2004. So I changed the dynamics for disabled. And I
okay.
called him. I said, let me tell you something. Can't you see the writing on the wall? You're in charge here for people with disabilities. You're letting them put hot zones and block people that live in a bar. What's wrong with you? Can't you see? He says, actually, I can't. I'm blind. And we became the best friends. And that was the opening line, because you don't know. But like we were talking, he says, you're 100% right. But he says, I work for the mayor. No, you're an officer in the mayor. You're an elected official. Now do your job, man. Do your job. If you want to take a break for a few days, I'll do it. But I did it with the Bush administration. Bush liked me. I made the funeral for Reagan's for disabled to see Reagan. I did so many things that changed and brought equity and equality. It's not about getting the fame from it. It's about getting the job done. Because if they poster me, right? See, it's better that they feel good about it because it keeps being done. If they just poster me, it gets done once. You see, so the
I
strategy
understand that.
is, oh yeah, so it's
I do.
better that we make them feel good about it. And that's how I always did it. Don't you feel good about this? Look how many lives you changed. So I listen, that's what I do. I want it to work for all of us. Having that disadvantage, I understand it. New York is now disadvantaged. And with all the migrant problem, this is a problem that's going to go away. I'm going to make it go away because that financial burden is too much for New Yorkers and it shouldn't have been done. Both elected officials violated New York's Constitution and they have to answer for it to us. We don't answer to them,
Yeah,
they answer to us.
the Democrats have a bad addiction to money. Look at Kamala Harris. She
Oh
raised
my God.
$1 billion, millions of dollars in debt. Like this is not fiscal responsible. This is just
Oh
like a
my God.
nightmare. So
It's
they have
fiscal
this.
irresponsibility.
It's just so bad. Yeah. So appreciate that. Yeah. And who suffers? The poor, the vulnerable. Exactly. Right. And I
Struggling
know a lot of
families.
yeah. There's a lot of people who mean well who I understand why they vote for Democrats because they believe the lies. I'm sorry to say it's
It's
lies.
true.
I'm
It's lies. They lied to them.
Yeah.
They made you drink the Kool-Aid because they spoke with
Yeah.
the velvet tongue. But at the end of the day, and this is what I tell folks, they say to me, "But you don't like Democrats?" No, I said I don't like those elected Democrats. My mom and dad were Democrats, and they
Right.
voted for Rudy twice
I
because
understand. Yeah, they
real
do a great job of
Democrats.
talking, but
Well, listen,
the actual delivery is not there.
no, no, but
Yeah.
real Democrats, and this is what I've talked to. When I'm talking to real Democrats. If you're a real Democrat, and you see this. Listen, listen, listen. We're Americans. We're New Yorkers. I'm going to work and fight for both of us because your ideas are just as important as mine. What I want to do for all of us as New Yorkers, bring us together, fix our city, and it's our voice, it's our ideas that we work together. That's why I want to invite young millennial Democrats and young Republicans, millennials, to come in to start and take us to a new chapter of America. And right, New York is the place where it happens first. So if we can make that happen, young Democrats and young Republicans can start working together just like the old days. And that's one of the other things I hope to accomplish because
I
I think I
appreciate
can
that
do
so
it.
much.
I
Yeah.
think I can
Um,
do it.
the next question, and actually the last question about yourself as a candidate, is there's a lot of I've had over 100 interviews with candidates all around the nation,
Right.
and a lot of them come to this plate with a lot of different levels of experience. You've already worked for presidents, amazing, right? You're
Six
on the
presidents
upper
respected
tier.
me. Six
But what?
presidents.
Yeah. So, what are you most, and it could be a couple things, right? What are you most proud of accomplishing that's related towards, right, this job of trying to run for mayor?
Well, thank God we got President Trump back, so that will be that much easier. He'll give me the help that I need because I know Donnelly came to the family restaurant. The president, we're so blessed to have him back in office. So this is a good time for New York because we have a president that is a New Yorker, a Queens boy. I'm a Harlem boy. So these things matter because President Trump is a personable guy. So when the mayor, who's not a political guy but a New Yorker, is saying, "I need this," Donald, I got an idea. What do you think about this? We have to work together to solve it. So we have to get rid of the migrants. They have to go. We can't afford it. It's unsustainable. We can't do it. New Yorkers, they closed down. This is why. It's not because we don't want them here. They came here illegally. They broke the law to build a voter base for the Democrats. That was wrong. That's treasonous. I don't care what they say. The Constitution says otherwise. They took away the resources, closed senior centers. That's vital to our vulnerable. That's our grandma and grandpa. Okay? Now, that's going to stop. So I'm going to restore our schools and education. We're not going to be waving any flag but the American flag. I want to restore our city to the city of hope, the city of vision, the city of accomplishment by unity and working together. Can we do that? Absolutely. We got to get rid of these political things that stand in the way of your opportunities. That's what they
Sure.
do. They stand in the way. So we got to push that aside and bring clear vision. We have to bring more revenue to New York through visiting, but you can't do that with crime. So I have to eliminate the crime. I'm
I
going
know you're
to.
excited about your future plans, but once again, the question is, what are you most proud of accomplishing in the past? And I know
Oh,
you
what am
actually have
I?
a bunch of
Oh God!
things,
All of
right?
the
But there's a lot of
changes.
people who talk a good talk, but I want to make sure
Okay.
that people have actually accomplished something.
Okay,
So
well, my
I
actual
could, yeah,
accomplishments
have to,
is where for disabled, I made most of the changes for access when there was none before ADA. I made New York City do homebound services to people. That was the first in the 80s. When people would get welfare pending disability, they would close their case because they couldn't appear for a face to face. So we did have the Rehabilitations Act, but it allowed government to not comply with disability rights. So I had Reagan's help, and he got public affairs, and they got in it, and then I changed it. And then I started to be that voice. And then I continued on. I was a lobbyist for the ADA. Most of the good changes, I'm the guy that outlined them
that's pretty
because I
impressive. Yeah,
lived them. I lived them. I
yeah,
gave them experience because the people who were drafting were not disabled. They had no idea.
yeah. Oh, we seem to have. Oh, okay, you're back. You're back. You got a call or something? Oh, but your audio dropped out. You might have to get back out and come back in. Yeah, your audio dropped out. I think you got a call or something, right? Can you still hear me? Or you might have to go to the bottom, like where your mic is, and choose your audio again. Your audio became unattached somehow. Can you actually leave this thing and then come back into the stream? Whatever happened there, cut off your audio. I can't hear you anymore. Can you actually exit out and then come back into the stream? Sorry about that, folks. Sometimes this does happen. Yeah, maybe you could actually close out the entire browser and then like revisit the link. I still can't hear you. Something took over your audio card when the phone when your phone rang or whatever it was, it took over your audio, and then it hasn't released it back towards back into this stream. So if you could actually maybe close the browser and then go back to the link, and then come back in, it should straighten it out. So sorry, you were doing a great job on this interview, though. By the way, if anybody wants to say anything in the chat, I see we got a couple people watching. Feel free to comment. Yeah. Oh, you can't hear me? Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Give me a second. I'm going to call Darren. Give me a second with the phone. All right, folks. Sorry about the technical difficulties. We're going to have Darren jump back out and jump back in. Yeah. That should actually solve the issue. So he should be right back. Yeah. Just
Okay.
close out the whole
You
thing.
there?
Yeah. Wait, can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, we're good.
Thank
Okay.
God. Okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, those accomplishments are quite serious. I know you have more than, I know you work with several administrations, and I know that you actually have quite a body of work. So,
I
once
do.
again, we'll follow up on that. But now we're going to get to some of the
Oh,
policies
but
right
the
now.
one thing I want
Oh,
to
go ahead.
tell you, I didn't get to tell
Oh,
you,
absolutely, please, yeah.
is the mask mandates. I fought the 11th Circuit
Oh,
under
really?
Title II. And
Okay.
that's why they stopped the man. They wouldn't let me join the suit, but they made me file an amicus brief to tell them why. Both the DOJ, CDC, and when I sent it in, it's great. You could see it at my website at adaadvocates.org. You could see the actual brief I sent and the 3-page letter of introduction. 1,000 people pleaded with me to join and motion the court, and I did. And we succeeded. That's why the mask mandates were removed.
That's amazing. I hope that I could work with you more. We're going to be in contact more after this, but
Absolutely.
that's part of the reason why I do this. I love meeting people like yourself, and thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. That's quite inspiring.
Happy to be
Yeah.
here. It's nice to meet you.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much. All right. So let's go to I work with a coalition. As minorities, we cannot get a justice in a democracy without coalition. So, I'm going to ask you about the question for some of my people that I work with. Now, the
Okay.
thing is that I've been an activist for 25 years, not as long as you. I'm a little bit younger, not so much younger. I'm actually almost 50, but
No
yeah,
way. You're
yeah,
lying.
just about 50. Just so you know,
Good
yeah.
for you. You look terrific.
Thank you, yeah. But I think I was a child when Reagan was president, right? So, right, I didn't really, so I know you were already doing some work back then. But the thing is that back during the Obama era, there was I was a student activist, and they actually said we're ending public housing as we know it. So the thing is that the reason why this was able to pass was because they said that we're going to actually, and this is a very highly Republican idea, right? We're going to actually give the public housing to people that actually live there. They're going to become owners. They're going to actually be more invested instead of just always being on a handout system. They're going to get a chance to actually become owners.
I
Now
want
what
to tell
happened?
you something about that. That
Okay.
was my idea when
Oh,
Koch was mayor,
okay.
to let them refurbish, let them live there while they're refurbishing, and partner with Home Depot and Lowe's to get the supplies to let them have this housing. And more than affordable, that they keep it. And veterans as well. That I targeted it for veterans first because veterans are handy. They go to all kinds of schooling. So I figured let's get the homeless veterans, give them this housing. We have abandoned buildings, we refurbish them.
There you go. Right. So the
That
thing
was
is that, yeah,
that's still my plan for today. We're still going to do that.
that
We're
would be
still
great.
going to do that. And
Yeah.
I'm going to take over city properties and give it to the people. It's our tax dollars.
And just
Government's
so,
got
yeah.
no place to mismanage our money.
And for people that are watching, there is the public housing system, which has some federal, but New York City is actually like overseeing that. But there's also City FEPS, which is actually a city program to actually take care of. So I'm
Right.
actually familiar with these housing concepts as well. City FEPS is really a lot of single men go into the shelter system or actually force the City FEPS system. I myself will be applying for City FEPS quite soon. So once again, it's actually an honor to meet you, and I really look forward
Good.
to doing a bunch of work together. But back to the issue at hand.
Okay.
The thing is that because the people actually have the rights to own their own home, as it was put into the legislation back then during the Obama era, the thing is that now they're just not being told, and they're trying to actually destroy the whole entire building at Fulton Chelsea in order to destroy the history of tenancy, so they don't have to actually give it to them, and so new people can take it over. They're making all kinds of excuses.
So big business can come in and put skyscrapers,
Yeah.
like the big Turkish building that Mayor Adams took $10 million from.
So yeah. So look. Yeah. So look, maybe you have to look into it more. I understand, but would you actually support, the demolition of Fulton Chelsea will actually displace the most vulnerable elderly,
No,
veterans,
no,
and
we're
also
not taking
disabled?
anything down. We will not destroy something that could be utilized for New Yorkers. Big
I
business has
appreciate
got
that.
to step aside, but
Yeah,
we need a leader who steps up for the people and not up to special interest. That's enough. We had enough. New
I
Yorkers come
appreciate that.
first, and that's that.
Penn Station, I think they're also getting rezoned, but just so you know, on Tuesday, that's a separate issue. But on Tuesday, we're going to have a meeting with some other mayoral candidates by Fulton Chelsea to try to support one of Penn Associate Presidents who's running for someone who's running for Penn Associate President to try to support her. She's actually against the demolition, so that'll be its own issue. There's also that other thing coming up at National Action Network. We're all going to wear MAGA hats and try to, once again, I know they say all kinds of things about the MAGA community, but the MAGA community was out there in front of Kamala Harris's office supporting the wrongfully incarcerated, while the Democrats and socialists weren't. It's just facts.
Our
So
justice system is not working because it was weaponized. You know,
yeah,
look what Bragg did in New York. Look what he did. These things will not be tolerated. That's why I'm putting the transparency of local government in New York. That's
I
going to
appreciate that.
stop. It
Talking
watches
about
me, it watches city council, it watches the district attorney. Everybody who's elected or appointed will have eyes on every day. They have to report to where the money's going. They're going to see the budget. So, because they owe us an explanation monthly, quarterly. We want to know. I'm going to do that. I'm going to be doing that for you and with you.
besides Bragg, there's also the Queens district attorney named Melinda Katz. Now we know that one of her predecessors, I believe, named John Ryan, was involved in something called China walling, where they were withholding exculpatory evidence in trials in order to artificially boost the prosecution rates. And this was actually a known thing, which caused his eventual resignation. He stepped down. He wasn't actually fired. He did step down over this controversy. And right now, there's a guy named Nolan Farrell who actually has a document from the Conviction Integrity Unit because the person who was the star witness against him was actually in jail at the time that the crime occurred, and they said that he was his they said he was doing the crime with this guy Nolan Farrell, but that's impossible because the guy was in jail. So the thing is that the Conviction Integrity Unit actually said that his conviction should be vacated, but because he's pointing the finger at John Castellano, they talk about the swamp. There's Melinda Katz was
Right.
elected, but John Castellano was not. There's a lot of staff that stays there. She doesn't want to have a revolution on her own hands from the staff from the swamp that's kind of there. And what happens that they're trying to cover up. And now, 3 years later, we have it all on tape. Nolan Farrell still has not received an exoneration for the crime. Would you support a review of his case?
I'm going to tell you something else I'm going to put in place. I'm going to put a justice reform of the mayor's office to review cases that are brought to my attention by families, by activist groups, to take swift and immediate action. Because our Constitution, again, I want to reiterate this to the people of New York, the Constitution is about us. When elected officials, appointed officials, carry out this miscarriage of justice, it's up to us to change it. So I'm going to put things in place because, yes, I support that. Because let me tell you why. I have a cousin that was arrested and falsely accused in a self defense matter. Self defense. And what I saw was racism and bias against Latinos, Italians, they and I watched. I know civil rights law. I watched the judge accept the photograph as rock solid evidence. Are you kidding me? There's no body to it. There's just a wound saying that was that. What do you can't do that. I watched it in my eyes. So yes, do I want to have this? Absolutely. I want to have a special office of integrity, and I want to get some retired lawyers, civil rights guys, to be part of the panel as well for advisory purposes to help families because there is a lot of innocent people in jail. I know that. That's the advantage as being a true New Yorker, growing up in the streets. I'm open to things that bring fair and equal treatment because we have so much unfair treatment as disabled or minority. We have to bring true justice that reviews everything that's done by government. So that's why I'm going to have that transparency office.
I really appreciate. And just so you know, the thing is that in Texas, right, they're known for having a high amount of the death penalty going on. But just so you know, Texas is also number 1 in the country for actually exonerating people. So when they mess up, they're willing to actually make themselves right. That's one thing you can appreciate Republicans for. Another thing is that Texas has the best compensation program for the wrongfully incarcerated in the nation, with $50,000 per year that they were wrongfully incarcerated. Now, I'm not saying for everybody, but people have proof that they were wrongfully incarcerated, DNA or whatever. fifty
Yeah.
thousand dollars seems kind of low to me, but I think that's complete. That's the best program in the nation. Would you support some type
Well,
of compensation for people that have been wrongfully
absolutely.
incarcerated?
Absolutely. They stole somebody's freedom.
Yeah,
They
I
stole
appreciate that.
somebody's freedom. They must be compensated. I want to have just as if you were the mayor, if you were going to be the mayor, I would want to work with you. I think the ideas that I have are going to inspire people to be part of this. This is not a me job. This is a we job. I could be a great mayor if I got a lot of people supporting this together. I want, and I told this to my staff, you're going to meet, because I already have my people picked of who's going to
Let's
do it, and they're New
hopefully
Yorkers.
I'm one of them. We're gonna see. Yeah, I'm gonna try to impress you. But let's talk about that big coalition. By the way, I'm very excited about you because besides the wrongfully incarcerated that I work with, right? The disabled is actually the second largest minority voting group in the nation. Maybe even because Black people don't vote a lot, maybe the largest voting minority group in the nation. Now,
Well,
one of the
maybe
advocates. Go ahead.
maybe you could be the voice in our Asian community,
We'll see. I would
bringing
love that.
unity and
I
bringing
would. Lo-
unity together, making
I
people
would
start
love
to work as one. That's the
that.
idea. We have to, if we got to bring people from every culture to sit and say, now can we all work together? You know what I mean? If that's what it takes, then that's what we do. We got to be
Absolutely.
smarter than politics. We got to start picking up our humanity and put down these political caps, because what we're doing is fighting for families. We're
Right.
fighting for our humanity. We're fighting against crime. We're fighting for our health. There are so many bad things with the water. New York needs significant change from the ground up. It's just not in government. It's the
Yeah.
way it's working. It's a filthy, dirty city where the rats are bigger than the cats.
So a person that I work with, I do actually work with the disabled, and I actually work with a consultant named Mark Safman. He actually works with the deaf blind, because a
Okay.
lot of times, like I think Vincent was the last the MOPD, mayor of disabilities advocacy, and he was in a wheelchair. But a lot of times, people with deaf blind are not really consulted in disabilities cases because of the communication barriers that they face. So I really loved hearing about the Braille. Right, that's something that we've also tried to work on too for people who are right trying to get access to the polls.
I
But
sued them. I sued them
yeah,
in 2014, Judge Joanna Seibert, which brings me to another policy issue. Joanna Seibert delayed the case for 5 years and dismissed it when I collapsed in the court. And I had chest pains. Ultimately, I had open heart surgery. So she dismissed it for failure to prosecute. We're going to have, the mayor's office is going to have judicial review of
yeah,
judges. We're going to see, and we're going to have a complaint through the mayor's office, because city judges, you work in our city, if you're a federal judge, Cadman Plaza, they're going to say we have federal. No, no, you don't. You're
yeah,
in my state. You're bound to our constitution. See,
yeah.
they don't understand it, but I do. So
So,
they're going to make people walk the line.
yeah. So actually, the thing that I'm asking questions for my coalition, my friends here.
Okay.
Now the thing is that Mark's also been involved with his protests against Helen Keller Institute. That actually, they've never had a deaf-blind person like as their director, and actually, he's joined by the first person to graduate from Harvard Law School as a deaf-blind person. So she's also co-signed this particular request for right. It's like discrimination against the deaf-blind in this organization.
Absolutely.
So the question is, what would you do to would you assure that authentic representation for disabilities is included as in terms of policy making and in terms of and you've already kind of like said that, but that's all the questions are the same
I'll
for the
reiterate it.
candidates.
I'll
So yeah,
reiterate
go
it
ahead. Yeah,
to the community, to our community of disabled. Let it be clear. Anyone who discriminates, excludes, denies, or interferes with will face civil rights charges by the office of the mayor. We will not tolerate it. I've come too far, because for me and for all you folks out there, it's the ability within that I focus on. It's your willingness to participate with the abilities that you do have. And I think that that's valuable. And I think that as an elected officer, it's my duty to enforce your right of choice to participate and to stop anyone who tries to exclude you from that practice. That's my promise to you. I
and
will not
yeah,
allow it.
I really
And
like you
just
said
to assure
before.
one other thing,
Go
just
ahead.
because there's meaning, because there's no work, and I fought for disabled actors. Let me say this: if you're an actor or you're a disabled person, and there's like, let's face it, we're unlimited incomes, we face financial challenges, but policy in New York for anybody that gets a city contract, if they don't include disabled by percentage of the ADA, I'm not going to bully them. I'm just going to enforce the law. New York City will be ADA compliant or else. And I will tell movie studios when they come and they get a permit to film, if they don't include 25% of the disabled actors of 100%, they won't get the permit. And that's all there is to it.
I really appreciate your advocacy on that a lot. Right.
It's
There's a lot of challenges that they
opportunities.
face. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So I mean, I sit on the committee, on the diversity committee for SAG, but they're not doing what they should. And they
earlier when
said,
you
well,
talked
we
about, yeah,
can't. And so I disagree.
you
You know,
already
the law
used your
is written.
yeah. You've achieved historical things in this context. You've worked
Did
for presidents. You've
I did
also had talked
worked
about
with
your how
presidents.
yeah, with the president, you talk about how your own personal experiences with disability, right, informs your ability to actually provide them with unique perspective and correction as in terms of their servicing. So you actually lived this authentic representation.
I did.
So I really appreciate that so much.
I did.
This is actually a big reason of why I do this work, to find people like yourself. It's
Well,
just
thank
it's such
you.
an honor to
And
be
we're
here
going to
with you.
listen. We're going to have a city that includes. We're not having token people to make it look good because I'm not like that. You know, I want people to
There's a
feel
lot of
good.
that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, they do that. I fought a case for a disabled, an autistic child who was supposed to be mainstream. I went down to uh, Brooklyn, right? They had the hearing, and they bring out the person in charge, a disabled person. So she came out. I said, so I said, oops. So I said, oh, you're the token person. All right. So I
Oh
says,
my
where's
goodness.
the parent advocate? Oh, you want a parent advocate? I says, we're talking about school curriculum. Where's the parent advocate? Where's the school? Is this all we get? I said, they looked at me like they didn't know where to put their face. I said, all right, this is a joke here. We went through it. They tried to deny mainstreaming this boy with autism. He was ready. They delayed it. I went into the judge. The judge, I told the judge agreed and said 10. I said, Judge, can we make that 10 days? Get them in there in 10 days. And if they don't, they're penalized. Absolutely, Mr. Aquino. I said, thank you. Have a good day, Judge. Boop. That was, boom.
Someone's got to
I
just
want,
sometimes it
I,
just takes someone to stand up and say something.
and
And a lot
that's
of
all
times
it
people, yeah.
is. It's not rocket science. It's not magic. I took the challenge on. I faced my aggressor, and I challenged, and I won
There you go.
because the challenge was legitimate. You know, it was a legitimate, rightful entitlement, and it was just being delayed. New York has that big problem because of politics. We have to remove the politics, and I will do that. So I
You know what?
think,
Yeah, and you know what I love about your answer so much? There's so many people who talk about helping people, but they can never actually mention specific people they helped. In
oh
this
yeah,
case, you have an actual person, actual boy with autism. You've got specific stories
yeah.
of specific people you've helped. People say, "Oh, we should do this for this community. We should do that for this community." Never did nothing.
I just
I really
did
appreciate that so much. There's a
just
real
the other
difference.
day, just
Yeah,
the other day, because they bought this new system. I don't know if you're aware of it. The city spent $10 million on the services. Now you heard some other things, but I did a press release and they buried it. Whenever we talk about disabled, it disappears. Okay, but we're gonna have an integrity office that broadcasts everything. Like, maybe you want to do that. Maybe you want to do that with the mayor's office. Be the voice of the people, saying this is what's
absolutely,
going on. We're doing this. This happened. All the dirt.
absolutely.
And we there's 70,000 kids in the autism system, which is not limited to autism, Down syndrome, you know. And they put this new system that takes it's too difficult for the providers to access. Sounds deliberate to me, so that they can stall payment because they have no money. You know why? Where'd they spend the money? Where did they spend it? On
On
illegals.
themselves. Oh yeah, that too.
So
Yeah.
now New York's kids, 70,000 strong, are being delayed. So they're making it look like the program, you spend $10 million and it has glitches. The old system was working. Why did you replace it? Why did you take $10 million, subcontract this because politics and special interests paying others with your tax dollars? Enough is enough. I'm going to pull the contract and they're going to make them pay us back. That money could be utilized. That could have done so much more.
You're
They're
absolutely right. The
not good
not-for-profit
stewards
industrial
of our money.
complex, it's so corrupt. The not-for-profit, there's a lot of money that's allocated to the poor, but never reaches their hands. You're absolutely right.
Never,
There's so many
never.
people in the
Even with
middle.
when we
Yeah,
had Sandy, friends that I worked with, actors, I said, thank you so much. The people in Long Island, around New York, nothing. Nothing.
talking about the corruption. Let's talk about another group right here.
Okay.
And I work with a student activist named Kori Edens, And the thing is that I already have 3 U.S. presidential candidates and several mayoral candidates for New York City already who support us getting a meeting with the CUNY chancellor and also Hunter College president on several issues. One of them being, right, the excessive executive pay that right now the CUNY chancellor makes. You want to guess right now? Over $700,000 in total compensation for his job, which is like insanely high. Not only that, but just so you know, recently the Hunter University college president had to resign because during her watch, there was someone named Professor Parsons, you could look it up, who was taking federal money and spending them on cocaine parties and trips to scuba diving trips.
Sounds
And
like Congress.
he got busted. Yeah, he got busted. And then what happened was that he had to return a lot of the money, and then and just a little aside, just so you know, I was actually running for student government at the time. And the thing is that I went to talk to once again, I do support the LGBTQ community and anybody who is actually, I'm not LGBTQ myself, but I always try to look out, like as the elf, I always look out for the little people that are on the edges, right? And Parsons is the one who fought for the gender neutral bathrooms. And I remember going to LGBTQ community. I said, what about the housing discrimination? What about the job discrimination? How do they have you wrapped up where the whole fight that you guys are focused on is gender neutral bathrooms? I'm not saying that that's nothing, but I'm saying, why is this the priority? Who decided this? And the same Parsons guy is the guy who's having the cocaine parties, stealing the money. I'm telling you, a lot of people, they are actually brainwashing the kids into some BS. So
we have to, the mayor's office is going to revamp, get rid of useless offices that make believe they're doing something. And I'm going to put offices that have, you know, interactions that when people come, that was why there were 5 deputy mayors. So that
Yeah.
every borough has me to go to. They're just me, like cloned.
And just so you know,
That was the intent.
we actually went to Hunter College, NYU, and Columbia with 10,000 business cards to try to get kids like politically active. They hopefully those kids could find out about your campaign. I really love a lot of the things that you're
We've
doing.
got some young people. If we can get them
Yeah,
and come out, I want people to be part of this administration. Listen,
yeah,
I'd be the figurehead because they like my ideas. But at the end of the day, we're all Americans, we're New Yorkers, and we want the best for our city. And that doesn't happen from just me. It happens from input,
yeah.
sitting, discussing. How does this work? I want to sit with the activist groups. What do you think? And then together solve the problems. You see, this is not being done anymore. They say it when they campaign on it, but then they disappear and then they come back when it's election time again. Because
That's why
here's
we're
why I
getting
have a
that's
special
why we're getting the
election.
agreements now. Would you agree to support us getting a meeting, myself and Kori Edens, a meeting with the
Absolutely.
CUNY chancellor and also the Hunter University?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you support that? I really
Well,
appreciate it.
absolutely, I support
That's
that. He
amazing.
won't.
Yeah.
He may tell you no, but he's not going to tell the mayor no.
We're working on it. We're working on it. Yeah, I
You
really
know what I mean?
appreciate it.
So I mean, listen. Whenever there's a voice of concern, our Constitution says we have a right, and any elected, appointed government or education, which is part of government or education, denies you of appearance. That's bullshit, straight out, and I don't
Yeah,
accept that. And
I
that's why I
appreciate
was
that.
such a good advocate. And I will be the same voice. Listen, what you see and what you hear now, I'm that same guy. And that's the thing that people like about me. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. I'm not
Yeah.
going to deviate from this. This is what, if I'm committed, I'm committed. I'm all in. You have to
And
be when you fought like I did.
quick shout out to the students that are watching right now. I'm not saying, right, I know a lot of y'all are passionate on the Palestine issue. I'm not saying that's an unworthy cause. You should support whatever you want to support. But I'm saying right now, why are those leaders in those movements? A lot of you all are being run around by these professional activists. Why aren't they talking about the tuition hikes? Why aren't they talking about, right, about the book scams that they got you guys involved in? Instead, they got you wrapped up fighting something that's not personally affecting you. I'm not saying, right, you can't fix overseas if you can't fix home. So once again, I'm not saying, right, fight for whatever you want to. You have the right to freedom of choice. But look at the people who are leading the student movement, and a lot of times they're using you and exploiting you
That's
for
right.
your energy and your resources for things that don't even necessarily impact you or other students around you.
That's right.
Please, yeah, please. I really like a lot of these things Darren is saying. There's some other candidates that are very cool that I'm working with. Look out for yourselves and stop paying attention and stop buying the lies that they're selling you. I'm a Korean American. I'm a victim for myself. I'm telling you right now. other war victims are being excluded. Russians, Ukrainians, Koreans, right? It's not just a racial thing. It is
The key
also,
word you
yeah.
said,
So thank you. So sorry
victims.
about that. Yeah.
Key word you used is victims. We ourselves, as New Yorkers, as Americans, we've become victims to bad politics. And
Yeah.
that's where our government has gone wrong. It is my sincere hope that, like what our host is saying, I want to work with everybody. I want to do what's never been done in politics. Actually, people going back to the old days like Lincoln, because it wasn't broken. He
Yeah.
fixed it. And what they did was break it along the way because it didn't suit special interests. Well, let me tell you, you are all New Yorkers are my special interest. Being an advocate for more than 4 decades, learning the ups, the downs, the ins and outs, the corrupt, and all that, there's only one way to work, and that's together. And that's
Yeah.
listening to the true voices of the New Yorkers. Nobody whispering in my ear. There'll be none of that. I don't take money. I'm happy with a good paycheck. I will, in fact, this was a promise I made. If I get in, and there's talk that we're going to have the special election, if I succeed in the special election, I get 258,000 for the year. They give it to you, even if I serve a month. I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is. I'm gonna take that paycheck because the city pays for me, cars, security, food, lodging. I'm
Okay.
going to give that whole paycheck and I'm going to put it towards the homeless problem. I'm going to take it and let you see me. I'm all in. When I say I'm in, I'm in. And if we do it together, watch what we can accomplish. Watch. Watch. Imagine you're the voice. You too. You're
I
going to
appreciate
say,
that.
I'm going
Yeah.
to call the mayor. And you're going to say, oh, you won't be able to get him. Oh, you want to bet? I have a cell phone. Yeah, how could I? Wait, what's up? What's going on? I need a little help. Okay, come to the office. Let's go talk about it. People, when I ran for Congress, people said, and the reporter came to my house. He said to me, "You're going to give people." Then other people started copying, and it's on there. You could see it on NBC. And I ran against Byron Donalds. I said, Byron's a good friend. I said, he said to me, I was fighting to keep a veteran hospital 24/7. It was only daily hours. How does that help veterans? They need it 24/7. So he says to me, "You're going to give people your phone number when you're a congressman?" I said, "Absolutely. 929-245-1151." He said, "You're going to let everyone." I'm a public servant. They get to call me, they get to question me, to challenge my integrity. That's why they hired me. If I
Yeah.
don't serve them, I'm not worthy of the position. So he was like, even later, and you know how media is, but I like Dave Elias, and he was a genuine, authentic man. He said to me, "Darren, you gave them a good fight. You have nothing to be ashamed of." I said, we're not going to talk about how it was cheated, blind, didn't vote, but he said, "You're a good man."
The spring semester starts on January 25th for Hunter College, January 21st for Columbia and NYU. So actually on February 2nd, which is actually going to be the weekend right after that, right? We're going to try to have a discussion panel on academic reform and hopefully get some students involved, and we could get you some volunteers maybe to help you petition, to help you do some fundraising, to help you do some phone
Well, if
banking
we have a
for your
special
campaign.
election, I don't believe we need petitions. She's got to do it 80 days after he's removed. And
Okay.
what we need to do, as every New Yorker out there, pressure the governor, pressure her. We're
Okay.
entitled to a mayor. He's too occupied with his crimes that are before a court. You need an active mayor addressing these issues, and that's why we have these leaderships. Remember, in New York City, you're in charge. Read your Constitution. I urge all of you, read it. It's one of the best. And John Jay is one of the signatories. Livingston is the other. New Yorkers got the most powerful. They're all the same, but they run kind of concurrent throughout the United States. The federal one is not as important as the one that you have because of the separation powers. And each state has its own identity where it talks about when these, like the whole migrant situation, you could have got rid of the governor and the mayor. But now, with the majority, it's possible that we have to remove Hochul too. They've caused crime, death, financial hardship, homelessness. They destroy the very foundation of what New York represents, among the corruption and the other things. So this job coming in, if I get this last year, or what's the remainder of it, I'm going to surrender my pay to the plan that I want to implement to show you that I mean business. That this is not so much about pay. It's a great job, but it's a more of an honor to be chosen, to be the guy that, okay, we trust you. That's a big deal to me. That's a big deal. That's always been a big deal as an advocacy, fighting for people, because I get to leave a legacy for my grandchild. My grandpa was the guy that did that. Just like people talk about Abraham Lincoln. What a nice legacy to leave. So it's not an ego trip. I've worked hard at the things that I do as an advocate to become
Yeah.
mayor and implement those necessary and warranted changes and to change the whole dynamic for the good of New Yorkers. That's an accomplishment that I want to make.
Okay. I really appreciate that. Yeah. I love these answers, by the way.
Thank
Now,
you.
I told you before about working with Kori Edens, Mark Zafman, Nolan
Correct.
Farrell. Another person that I work with is actually the most prolific New York City reporter in New York City history, I believe. And someone can prove me otherwise. His name's Christopher Leon Johnson. I don't know if you've ever heard the name.
I do.
And you have?
I am.
Okay. Right. He's a little controversial sometimes, but he does a lot of work. I respect him, puts the work in. And I asked him what he think would be a good, thing to bring up, and he said e-bikes. E-bikes are causing fires in certain homes. You have 20, 30 e-bikes in front of, restaurants trying to do deliveries. You got people on e-bikes like getting to accidents, crashing into people, and involved in thefts and stuff.
Right.
What are your ideas for e-bike regulations?
I'm going to look at see, when I get into the office, I got to see what he done. I don't want to speak prematurely. We have to look at who invested in it. What interest of it is to the people. We have to weigh everything out. If it's more negative than positive, we got to put an end to it. And that's all there is to it. We have to make hard decisions on some things. Some things may be 50-50. We have to decide, is it 50 better or 50 bad?
Yeah,
We're going to be faced with choices like that. But I want to look at everything and
that's
see
fair.
how it was done. And then what always, like I said, remember, I'm the mayor that's for the people. And whatever works for us will be done for us under our democracy, which is the majority rule. So if the majority says this is what works, the true majority, not political majority, the actual people do actual voting and will do things like we'll have cable stations where people can call in and tell us what they want to do. I'm going to change how they want things done. I'm going to make a platform for them to say, do you like this idea? Like, for example, I want to put out a plan, and you're my press agent. You're going to say, the mayor wants to implement this. So on January 5th, we're going to this station and we want your input. This is what he's proposing. And we're not going to wait for elections to do this. We're bringing it to you now because it's real time now. And we'll do things similar to that.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Another group that I'm working with is, I don't know if you heard about this, but the largest mobilization of Asian Americans in New York City history is happening in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, where actually the Brooklyn Chinatown is fighting against the building of a shelter in their community. Now, we know in Manhattan Chinatown that they built 8 shelters in the Manhattan Chinatown. And a lot of times the government has a tendency to try to want to group the undesirables together.
Right.
Having been formerly homeless at the age of 16 and several times since, I can tell you that people in homeless shelters, not only is it like near a daycare, right, which is actually, I believe, dangerous
Shelters
because,
don't work.
yeah,
Shelters don't work.
not only that, but the right, well, also I have there's also a news article where people who like sleep in bunk beds, all crammed in, they're paying $7,000 per month, right, for the city services. Someone's just making so much money off of that, right? It's a complete ripoff. They'll have like
And they're
inside of
putting
like
in the
a
pockets. The
50 by
money's getting dispersed.
Yeah, and the thing is that right, the also certain communities are targeted, right, for actually and this caused the are targeted to have like certain undesirable services or whatever. And then what happened is that they created the first Asian American district in New York City history in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. It was actually overseen by Iwan Chu, and that district is the only district I think in New York that actually flipped from blue to red with
Okay.
Stephen Chan because the community was so upset about the inclusion of. They've been actually protesting every day for 100 days straight, more than 100 days. They're still protesting to this very day, even though it's getting colder. So, would you actually support the more community input as in terms of what's going on with the homeless shelter? There's a lot of corruption too, as you know. Yeah,
Absolutely. That's why I'm going to donate my first year of pay. while you ponder electing me, officially electing me to serve a full 4-year term. Uh, we have to solve the problem, but we can't invade communities like De Blasio started doing. It started there. Okay, we can't do that. You can't just throw in random hotels. We're going to reform the whole program. We're going to do a massive deportation. That's happening.
Yeah.
You know, we're getting rid of the problem that we didn't bring to ourselves so that we can solve our problems. So we have to relieve New Yorkers of that burden. As sad as it sounds, they broke the law. They're here illegally. And we didn't allow that.
And
We're
yeah,
not going to allow it. As
and
mayor, I
they
won't
take
allow it.
advantage of our compassion, and they make you feel good about it, but underneath you're stealing
The
hundreds of
elected took
millions of
advantage.
dollars.
The
Hundreds
elected,
of
the blue
millions.
crowd took advantage, the governor and the mayor. And then it failed on them. So now you're saying, well, it wasn't me. Too bad. It was you. And that's what we're going to see as New Yorkers, that I'm not going to do that. I'm
I
going to do
love it. Yeah,
everything
I
I
hope so.
say.
I hope so.
I'm
That's
going to do everything I say. Massive deportation, because we're fortunate enough, because, hello, Donald, it's the mayor. Could you send those buses?
yeah, yeah, I understand that. Yeah. Another community that I work with is the trans community. Now the thing is that this is going to be a hypothetical question. The
Okay.
thing is that we know that trans people face a lot of discrimination in the job, discrimination in housing. So in this question, it's a hypothetical. Let's suppose that 10% of the people applying for public housing are trans, and only 1% of the people in public housing are actually trans, right?
Okay.
So the thing is that we run a study. We ask them why this is happening. They say we're getting discriminated against, we're getting beat up, stuff like that. Now, there's no law saying that you can discriminate against trans people, whether you agree with their ideology or not, right? What will you do to ensure this community fair access to government services?
No, you heard me at the beginning. All people, right?
Okay,
Trans are people.
right.
The only thing I don't want is I don't want them. I don't like when anybody brings an agenda to put it above everybody else's agenda. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
my trans is more important than your disability. It's not. And I won't tolerate that. Everybody has a right to a voice. And what I want to bring is balance. I want to hear, yes, like I told you, any hate speech, you're going to jail. You heard a transgender, you heard a gay, or like, you're going to jail. And that's that. That's hate. That's hate. We got no room in this city for hate. We had enough hate going on. Now it's time for peace, unity. Let's come together. I don't want any exploitation with this transgender choice of one's individual right. I think that's wrong to exploit it. uh, Keeping your right to be what you are, what you feel. I will protect that right
Okay.
against anyone who discriminates against it.
I'd like to also slip in. Okay, so if you remember, this is a hypothetical question,
Right.
talking about 10% versus 1%, right? But then there's also another complicating issue because when I apply for schools, I don't put Asian because I know that's going to hurt me. So we know that people who are trans might, you know, say they're trans one moment, say they're not trans another moment. I do it myself, being Asian American.
Well,
So
you know what I
you could
would do?
question the data, but how do you use the data to make decisions
Okay. Here, well, being that I'm
and
only in
come with
charge of,
solutions? Yeah, go
being
ahead.
that I'm in charge of New York, I would sit down with the strongest voice of the transgender movement and say, what are you comfortable with? What would you like me what would you want me to make in law? That, do you want to write transgender, or you just want to be that you're you, and this is the you that you are. What they see is who you are. I think, any type of discrimination against that I won't allow. But
Right.
so I'm gonna you got to hear from the group. What
I
do they
appreciate that.
want
Yeah.
me? What do you want me to say? Do you want me to say the words transgender, or do you want to be, what I'm saying? Like, how do
I
you
love that
want
answer
me?
so much because what happens so often is that the people who are affected by the situation don't have any voice, right? Some expert comes in, some think tank who is not disabled, who's not trans, and then right they don't have no access to actually people like yourself. There's and it's really so annoying. So
I look at
once
all
again,
these
having
different.
authentic representation is the key. That's
I
just my
think.
personal. I appreciate that answer. Go ahead.
I think I look at every challenge like a disability from the perspective of not allowing anyone to discriminate against. So I use my own shortcomings to help others with theirs. You
Yeah, the
understand?
understanding, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so
Yeah,
that requires a sit-down discussion with the leader of the five boroughs, that these rules are going to be written into law by order of the mayor, and then that's it.
that's fair. Yeah.
But we got to fix it so it can't be reversed.
Yeah.
too. So I mean, if I put something in, it stays in for the
Yeah.
good of the people. Everything. I just want to be, you know, I don't want to be politically correct. I think that's some kind of sick word, politically correct. You know, we got to be humanely correct when we're
Well,
looking
who
out for
decides what's
people.
correct and what's not, right?
Exactly. So, so I think that that requires a discussion to sit down with, excuse me, the loudest or the most effective transgender voice who's been like me. I'm in the battleground 44 years. So the guy who knows the most is the guy that's going to be most effective that I would work with.
Yeah.
That's how I do it. Like the guy who's got the most experience is the best guy to talk to, right?
Yeah. A
So we
lot of
would sit
times though,
with that.
they choose someone who's not as experienced, who's willing to say what they want, and then they insert them into positions of
Okay.
leadership.
Now you
Yeah.
see why I want to have a mix in the administration of young and old, because wisdom is powerful. Everybody
I
could
appreciate
agree.
that. Yeah.
Wisdom is powerful, and new and young ideas are very important, but they can find a balance. So I'm going to do what nobody's done. I'm opening up to the city. I'm going to hire New Yorkers,
Yeah.
people who are in the trenches, who know that, okay, we could change this. Of course, we want, and I'm not going to make college mandatory because of some people with dyslexia like myself and disabilities. You know, I want to see what people can offer. That's why I'm going to do a lot of the interviews. While I'm
Sure.
active, I'm going to do the interviews. I want
Good.
people to know that, listen, they give me the title of mayor. We respect that title. But as your boss, I want to be your leader. I want to be your friend. I want to be the guy that I gave you this chance. We're a team. I'm the team leader. We're all a team. We all benefit. If I make a success because of your work, we made a success. And everybody in New York is going to know the mayor. No, no, I didn't do it. We did it. I will never
Yeah.
sit there. I don't gloat on stuff like that. I like
Okay.
team effort. It shows people how to work together and be together.
The last partner I'm going to ask, and then we're going to I have my own questions. You'll have your own things to say, I'm sure, as well too. Is Zul Zolkowitz. And I know you probably answered this question a bunch of times already, but I just want to make sure that everybody's question gets asked. His question is, what will you do to make sure that the interests of the poor and the working class are addressed? Once again, you said
Well,
all New Yorkers, but just yeah, go ahead.
well, that's part of one of my platforms to help the struggling New Yorkers. I was that kid. I was a single mom. I was
Yeah,
disabled. I was minority. I know where the heartache hits first. I know where the struggle begins. So we're going to prioritize because I want New York to thrive again. So what I'm going to do is, because you know how many smart people are in those poor families? Do you know how many that didn't get an opportunity? I'm going to make
a lot.
opportunity where there was none. So I'm
Yeah,
going to make opportunity. I'm going to reach into these. I'm going to try to initiate better programs that bring thriving to these struggling families. I want to bring help where there was none. Now, we have to look at all our budgets. And when I'm in there, when I see the books, what we have, then I can start moving because I have nothing but advocacy experience. That's going to be the best part of my resume is what I've done.
I
And
appreciate that. Yeah.
and the struggling and poor, disabled, fixed
One
income.
one
I
thing
know
I'd
what
like to
that's
just yeah,
like.
I want just to insert just something. If you ever go to dgf7.com, you can see front and center. There's something called Rep My Block. One
Okay.
thing that I'm encouraging people from whatever community, rich, poor, whatever, right? Even right, rich people too should also do this. Everybody should do this. There's something called county committee, which actually, right, people running for office like yourself, right? Sometimes people run and then there's money left over. Where does that money go? Sometimes they use it for a future run. Sometimes the state party can determine who gets to run, and then they just certain people are connected, and then people that are honest players who are qualified players, they're a threat to party leadership and they don't get the support and it's withheld. So, right, once again, and when you run for a county committee, you could help someone like Darren. He's going to have
Right.
certain petition requirements he's going to need to be able to run for office.
That's
And
right.
when you get your petitions done, you could also ask those people to also sign a petition for Darren as well. And then Darren will actually, if you're helping with him what he actually needs to run for office, then that can help. So you could actually throw all the stuff onto Darren and say, what can you for working class poor people? But I'm going to say right now, as working class poor people, what can you do for yourselves and what can you do to help Darren right there? I want you to think about that too, right? It's not all on what are you going to do for me? What are you got to also do something for yourself. And I like what you said earlier about, a true grassroots bottoms up. and not trusting someone else to just take care of the problem, but actually empowering the people themselves. That's a core part of this activism, which actually the Democrats, I'm sorry to beat up on them so much. I like what you said about authentic Democrats earlier, right? A lot of them have good values, but a lot of them are manipulating, right, and getting you into a consumerist, right? We're the solution. Just buy my solution. Don't ask questions. Don't question anything. This is what's good for you. No, it's not. It's not. Yeah, while they're stealing the money hand over fist. So,
That's right.
yeah.
So
So,
that's
yeah,
yes, that is the true thing, and this is
absolutely.
going to be the core of this campaign. It's going to be you, all of you New Yorkers. You want change. You want real change. Now step up to the plate. I'm here. I'm ready to work with you. Are you ready to work with me and make this change together? We can make history together, but not just history. We're going to repair our city. We're going to fix the real broken parts. Families. Families were affected by politics that were corrupt, criminal, that destroyed the greatest city in the world. It's not hopeless because now with this removal of Eric Adams coming and opportunities of, I'm sure there's a lot of good candidates, but I think that I'm the best candidate because friends and dozens of people say, Darren, you're the kind of candidate they need because you're authentic. Because I'm not a political candidate. I'm in a political race, but I'm a people person. And my long dedicated years to advocacy, even now while we're talking, writing the press release on how autistic children, 70,000, and the governor and the mayor don't give a damn. They don't. They can fix the problem. They made the problem. So we have to understand that I need you. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. What I care about is you want to do something. The most important thing that you should be telling me, where can I help? That's what I want to hear. I don't care about your party affiliation because our party affiliation doesn't change things. Working hands, real ideas, real inclusion, together, working together, fighting the politics that destroyed us to make our city great again. And I know we can do it. We're the greatest
I
city in the
appreciate
world.
that. Yeah. Just three more questions. Yeah.
Yes, go
Um,
ahead.
so the next question is going to be, what do you think are the most critical issues impacting New York City, and how do you plan on addressing them?
The economy,
Okay.
the invasion of the homeless, the
And the
invasion
migrants.
of the illegal migrants, and the whole economic structure and the corruption. You go through those are the things. You're not getting what you need because the
Mhm.
corruption is greater than their desire to repair. And then with the migrants, it's exhausting all of New York's resources. That it also interfered with activities that were needed for senior centers and things. So all of this has got to be reformed right away. The day one I take office, the migrants are out. They're going
Right.
back. Wherever they got to go, they're going. I'll send them to homeland. I'll send, well, Donald will send them back to their countries. And then they won't be allowed to come back in New York City for 5 years. They broke the law. And that's that. This is not
Un-
hate. And
yeah.
those, I want the migrant, the illegals the illegals that came in. This has nothing to do with you. You've been here working, doing your thing, just like my great grandparents. Okay, my great grandpa, my mother is Puerto Rican, so since 1917 we've been American. So, but for the Italian, my great grandfather was an immigrant. I want all immigrants who are here pending. I'm going to try and expedite your citizenship as the mayor of our city because you've been here, some of you, for 10 years waiting, paying your taxes, building your communities, being a positive figure. I'm going to work to make those things happen for you because we're in this together. This is our city, right? We got to come together. So
Yeah.
some people say, yeah, that's a naive thought. No, it's not. This is the best time. This couldn't be a better time for us to come together. What we've learned and been through with the invasion, the hurt, the country, the disaster, the economy, the natural disasters that took so many lives. If there was ever a time to unite, and with the world, right, with Palestine, Israel, right, and that's one thing I want to talk about. I want
Okay.
to, I want to talk about the Jewish and Palestinians that were fighting each other in New York. I will sit them down with our community leader that I want that represents faith. I'm going to put a guy in there. It's my nephew. He's a pastor. All the faiths will sit in there. The one thing, and this is to the Jewish community, my wife works with the Jewish community that provides autistic services for children. This is my stand, and I did a press release on this, but they bury it. Whenever you talk about peace or unity, it goes to the side. They like war. War is money for people. I want you to know we will sit down. And when you want change, you don't get it by fighting each other in the States when the battle is overseas. You want to unite together. I will stand and be the voice for both of you. And you are stronger when you stand together to tell the other side, bring peace. And you do that around the country. You don't fight with others here who didn't do it. That's just stupid. There's
Yeah.
no sense in that. I'm going to beat this Jew up over here. Well, what's the sense in that? There is none. But if you unite together and say, we want peace, now the world is watching you. It's how to approach your audience. I will do that with you. I will be a voice from New York with you to yell for the peace. I will do that. But you will be peaceful to one another.
I love that answer so much. As a war victim myself,
Sure.
and I know people like to dismiss that because I'm Korean American because the war happened in the 50s, but I was actually a victim of generational violence. I ran away from home at the age of 16 due to the violence that I experienced.
Sure.
You don't see war victims really on the front lines of actually, right? You will see some Palestinians, but it's a lot of other people that are there making money off of the suffering, not saying what you're saying once again, right? And other war victims would absolutely say you can't fix overseas until you fix home. That's so true.
Mhm.
And right, that message of unity. How can, if you're fighting over here, but you're going to bring priests overseas, it's ridiculous.
What are you
It's
trying
and
to do? What are you trying to show them
yeah,
fighting? What do you think they give a damn?
and other people that are war victims would not tolerate the lack of progress on this issue and this squabbling, which is really preventing actually true reform from happening. So I really appreciate your answer on that. Right, I know it's not the easiest answer to give because it's so controversial, and a
I
lot of
think
people are scared
Donald
to say
Trump will
that.
bring an end to it, though. I think he will. He's
We will
such a
see.
good negotiator. He's such a good man. But in the meantime, because mayor's race could be happening if he gets out by the end of this month, we want Kathy Hochul to put that special. We don't want to wait 80 days. We don't want Jumaane Williams in office. He's worse than Adams. He's very radical and he's a racist. And we can't have that. We can't have these kind of hatred using these high and noble seats that are for people of character and integrity that destroys the very fabric of who we are as American New Yorkers.
Yeah,
Remember, New York is the core of America.
I
Remember,
appreciate
when
that.
they
Yeah.
came here from far and near and whatever, they came through New York.
So now that people, have watched this interview, right? We're probably doing some more work later on. And shout out to, I think this was there's another male candidate who was the one in the Marines, probably the ones you saw. Uh, I think it's Javon, something like that. But
Mm.
he's actually in the chat just right now, checking it out. Shout out to him.
Thank
And
you for your service, brother.
yeah,
My nephew just got promoted to colonel. He's a Marine. 23 years in. I'm so proud of him.
so how can people find out more about your campaign? You got a website, you
Okay.
got social
Well,
media.
yeah, I got the social media. You can find me on Instagram, Darren Dion Aquino, real Darren Dion Aquino. When you Google me, it tells all my accounts. You can Google Darren Dion Aquino. Dion is my middle name that I use on my SAG card, Darren Dion, as a union actor. Uh, but Darren Aquino brings up everything. My campaign page is vote no wait, it's Aquino for New York or vote Aquino for New York.com. You can go there, vote Aquino for New York.com and everything else. I mean, there's a whole bio there. And the best way to find me is Google me. Everything that I've done in the
Yeah.
history, from court cases to everything that my whole grassroots thing, my political runs. Don't be discouraged because I'm dedicated like Lincoln. And where would we be if Lincoln gave up?
Yep. Your name's on the screen too, so people can Google that. And also,
Yes,
just so you
absolutely.
know, later on, I'm going to get him to actually like message me his links. I'm gonna put that in the description and
Absolutely.
the comments. So just look below.
Absolutely.
You'll be able to
You
find all
have
his
my
social
cell
media.
phone. You have my cell phone
Well,
number. And
yeah,
I'll
but
give it to you.
I'm
Listen.
not. I might give that on. I don't think. Well, is it on the website? I don't know.
Well, it probably comes
Right?
up on one of my pages because it's
Maybe,
the
maybe, yeah.
business line. But
But you
if
could always send the
somebody,
email, right? Yeah. So
I'm going to say the
yeah,
number here, like I said it before. It's 929-245-1151. Now, it's a business line. It's the advocates line. It's also used for people who want to volunteer. If you want to be part of the history to make New York safe again, that's the committee to make New York safe again. If you want to be part of that, and you're welcome. Just text me, right? I'm busy all day doing stuff. I take care of my uncle. He's an 82-year-old Vietnam veteran. I take care of him. So there's a lot of things that will identify with you. You'll identify with me and my character, and I hope that works for all of us because I truly want to work with New Yorkers to make New York great again because we got to make it safe first. And the only way to do that is I'm going to increase the size of the police force. I'm going to give them more money because they're the most underpaid. My son-in-law, my future son-in-law, is Port Authority. He makes the pay as a police officer what a top lieutenant's pay is, and he's a patrolman. So that's just unfair. You know, politics put money in their pocket, but the people serving New York got screwed. So there's going to be significant change. We're going to be working with everybody who wants to work. If you want New York to be great, safe, clean again, then join the campaign. There's room for you. There's room for you. We're a
appreciate
big
that. Yeah.
city, 8.5 million. That
Um,
stayed.
yeah. Shout out to Javon Terrell. Ross. He's in the chat right there. So is another candidate that's coming that I'm interviewing later tonight. Von Stephen Del Valle. He's also in the chat. Shout out to both of you. Now that people know that your website and they'll be able to look that up, you got it. And you said something interesting about maybe forcing the what is it called, the special election to happen, right?
Yes.
So what do you have planned in the future? Anything for people to look forward to? Maybe you have a campaign event, a fundraiser,
Well, we're
for the
doing that
holidays. Go
now.
ahead.
Right now, because he's up in the air, the campaign has started. We didn't put on an event yet, but my friends in the Latino community, Louisa, she's Flores, she's a auxiliary police officer. She's been there for 11 years, and we'll be utilizing them as well. I'll be doing some things for those of you who may be an auxiliary police officer. I'm going to reform their practices and give them academy training because they volunteer. That's another resource that we never used. And they're out there and they're targets and they don't get the respect they deserve. I was an auxiliary in Staten Island at 22. So I'll be reaching into them as well and reforming them and giving them the tools they need for their courage and dedication to make communities safer. I'll be doing that. We'll be doing something. Louisa's going to be doing stuff for me. My manager is 23 years old. He's a young Latino man, Elijah Diaz, and he's so excited. I says, "You got the ability, so just do what you do," and he's excited. So I'm setting up to show everybody that we're open to everybody. Everybody, come be part of this. It's not my city; it's our city, and if we do it together, guess what happens? We take it back, and then we do the things that we want to do.
All right.
I'm open to all new ideas, ones that might be better than mine. I think my clean New York is a good one. What do you think?
I like that. Yeah. By the way, shout out to
Is that
12
a good
Veils. That's
one?
12 Veils, another activist I work with. Why are we wearing the same color shirt? Because great minds think alike, 12 Veils. You know that I'm a serious activist. 12 Veils, you funny. Yeah, I'm mad at you. By the way, I do plan on doing a lot of more work with there's some discussion panels that I've organized and
Good.
coming up.
Of course.
I'm very excited to meet this guy. I'm definitely planning on doing more work with him. It's an honor for him
Please.
to come on the program tonight. And thanks for everybody who was watching.
Thank you.
If there's any last words you want to say, otherwise I'm going to end and we'll just have a little private chat afterwards. But
Okay.
anything
Well,
else you want to say?
just I want to say, listen, don't be discouraged. And those of you and to our veterans that are on the streets and you're gonna get to see this somehow or somebody will walk by. Help is on the way. You're not staying on the street.
It's about time, sir. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. God bless. I'm gonna hit end stream right
God
now.
bless.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. It's